Excellency Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Excellency Gordana Davkova, President of the Republic of North Macedonia, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to join you today, and I thank President Tokayev for his gracious invitation. Kazakhstan's prosperity is a reflection of its bold leadership and the resilience of the Kazakh people. This forum has become a vital platform not only for dialogue, but for pragmatic cooperation in a world that is increasingly fragmented. This year's focus rightly underscores that global challenges are deeply interconnected, and our responses must be just as integrated. This calls for a shift in the way we approach foreign policy and international cooperation. In Rwanda, we have learned that external alignment without internal stability only deepens our vulnerabilities. Our priority is therefore focused on what delivers real and measurable benefits to our people. This includes prioritizing peace and security, strengthening economic self-resilience, and accelerating regional integration. Our engagements with international partners are grounded in a mutual respect and reciprocity, not dependency. This is the principle that should apply to the global economy and how it functions. The COVID pandemic exposed how fragile and unequal our financial systems have become. Since then, many developing countries remain trapped between rising debt, shrinking fiscal space, and harsh borrowing terms. There has been much talk of reforming the global financial architecture so that it is fit for purpose. But the problem we have is not just structural, it is political. The rules of the system are quite often enforced unequally. At the same time, the criteria for assessing financial risk are based on outdated assumptions that disadvantaged countries in the South. This restricts access to capital, increases costs, and it delays progress. But while we push for change, we must also act with greater urgency to build resilience from within. That means managing our resources more effectively, enhancing industrial productivity, and investing in human capital development. It is encouraging to see the renewed momentum behind South-South cooperation, including between Africa and Central Asia. This is not an alternative to global engagement, but a necessary complement that provides a stronger collective voice on issues that affect us all. We thank Kazakhstan for opening this space, and Rwanda stands ready to do its part. I thank you.
President Kagame, thank you so much. I want to ask you your point about building resilience from within, because it's something that you've talked about now for many years, whether that's education, partnerships, as President Tokayev talked about with other nations, Kazakhstan, of course, being one of them, select investment. Is that the only way, perhaps, forward for small and middle nations to build resiliency against the challenges, the greater challenges that they face, and then be able to shape the future that we want?
I believe, regardless of whether one is small, middle, or big power, resilience is going to bear out everyone as a starting point. That's where I start from. And for us in Rwanda, we learned from our history. When genocide was taking place in our country and the rest of the world looked the other way and not paying attention to what was happening, we learned that lesson. And that's how we began putting our pieces together and trying to build from within and bringing everyone to contribute and creating that level of trust that gave us an opportunity to build institutions that were accountable to our people's needs directly. But this does not stop us from cooperating with the rest of the world. In fact, we got support from a number of friends and partners. But this would not have been helpful, or would not have had impact if we were not standing together ourselves and doing our part from within.
And that support may have been less forthcoming too. Can I ask you about the security challenges as well? And we can name numerous of them: the situation in Ukraine, Gaza at this moment, closer to home, Sudan, even on your border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Do you think tailored solutions like mediation, engagement from nations such as the Qataris or other governments, the United States, others, can find solutions? Or do you think in the end the path to peace is found in the specific regions, in your case, the African Union? Because none of these solutions are simple, and no one wants a band-aid that ends up in more violence down the line.
Well, I mentioned that we learned our lesson, and not only from our own, but from what we see elsewhere. Security is very important, and peace, for any development or meaningful one to take place. But what we have also learned is that some of these conflicts have root causes. They just don't emerge from nowhere and you have conflicts. No, there are these histories that have not been resolved over many years, and they are the ones fueling conflicts over and over again. Now, what we have across the world, we find there is more paying attention to managing conflicts rather than addressing these root causes. And all you expect, therefore, you can cool down the situation, and a few months, few years later, you have the same crisis getting worse or others emerging, branching from what you are trying to resolve. So you don't just manage conflicts, you address the root causes. And that's what has been lacking in most of the cases that I'm aware of, including our own in the region, the one we have in the region affecting all of us. So, and we have the whole world paying attention, making a lot of noise, but all they do is just have ceasefires and short-term peace and discussions over it and so on and so forth. And then it spirals back to where we were at the beginning. So the root causes must be paid attention to in order for the lasting solution to be found for the conflicts.
Understand the history, understand the vested interests, and understand where nations lie.
Right.
Very quickly, you're a pragmatist, I think, as a leader, but what I also notice is you're an optimist. What keeps you optimistic? Because we've listed a whole load of challenges already today.
Well, I start with knowing where I have come from as a person and my country. You also understand that the same weaknesses or failures that create such tragedies like my own we faced in our country of a genocide, there are people behind that. There is politics behind that. But in the recovery and where we are today, you know that there are also people who can do good things and who can refuse to be crushed by the weight of these problems and emerge and deal with them and look toward a better future, as has happened in our case.
Change is possible. I think that's the message.
Change is possible.
The President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.